than I was at 41. So I'm very thankful for that. So I'd like to introduce a good friend from Clive, Iowa, the Western Des Moines part of Central Iowa and Des Moines, Dr. Amy Michelle Wilcoxon, and we'll let her tell her story there. It looks like I'd love curious about the wedding dress part of that, Dr. Amy. So we'll see what you have to say. So welcome to the webinar, Dr. Amy Michelle.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting us to share. I've never shared as a coach before, so I'm excited to do this today. And I was reflecting recently. It's my fall reflection time. That now it's been it's been 5.5 years since I started this, and I am a retired doctor of chiropractic. My hands are retired, but my license, my blood still runs natural health care, and I am licensed and I have advanced degrees in health and wellness and all of that. And for 20 years, I was teaching and preaching health and wellness. And ironically enough, when I had the aha moment last week. I had the aha moment that when I first came to the Habits of Health program and to Optavia, I was really just looking for something to do professionally in the meantime while I figured out what I was going to do when I grew up. Honestly, and thank God for Carrie Jewell, because she introduced this to me. She's my coach and introduced me to David, and together the two of them changed my whole life. And I feel like a cliche now because I have heard for 5.5 years this program doesn't just change your weight, it changes your entire life. And now I can safely say that is true. And I feel like I can't believe I'm saying that, but it is absolutely true. It changes everything. So I would have taken a bullet for chiropractic, but I was living really to take, but living to take care of others was killing me. And so 15 years ago, I was killing myself trying to save the world. I literally ended up with a liver tumor and cancer. And after a 3-year or 4-year battle with that, I finally said, Uncle, and I knew this wasn't God's plan for me. And I said, okay, I'm done. I gave up the practice, gave up everything I had worked for all those years, and left my dear home in Minnesota, where Margo will share tonight. She was my office manager, my right hand, left hand, and my best friend, my BFF, everything. She's, ironically enough, has a parallel journey, which we had, unbeknownst to us, she'll share about. But I gave up everything to save my own life, and I was broken physically, financially, maritally, spiritually, and personally and otherwise. And I really, I really have to say now that after the 5.5 years that I've been here, I have learned to eat a lot of humble pie, and and I know it. I knew it all, but I wasn't doing it all, and I knew that it was killing me, and I was a huge hypocrite because I was traveling. I took a job as director of Live Healthy Iowa and traveled around working with all the wellness coalitions in Iowa, teaching and preaching health and wellness, all the while still trying to get it together myself. And thank God for Dr. Anderson, because I was teaching and preaching, heart disease is killing the world, and cancer is killing the world, and diabetes is killing the world. But you know what? It's true. But Dr. Anderson's right. The number one killer in the country is not heart disease and cancer and diabetes. It is emotional mismanagement. Hands down, no question. He says that all the time. And now I totally get it, because that's what I couldn't get together, was what was going on in between here. The implementation and the information is Grand Canyon in between. And that is what this system, Health, the Habits of Health, and Optavia has done for me. And I knew, when I looked at the Habits Health books, Dr. Anderson had me at hello. My business was called Happy Health Habits, for heaven's sake. I could write the books, I could speak. I was already teaching what he wrote in the books, but I wasn't, again, living it. So the system, the way it was set up, was just ideal for me because I'm a step-by-step checklist person. I started on element 1, just like everybody else, and then brought my husband along into the game. And unbeknownst to me, I was a dieter, white knuckler. I white knuckled through diets and white knuckled in between diets since middle school. And so I came to this not with a weight issue because I had dieted it off one more time, but I was white knuckling, waiting it for it to come back. So I started with them in the middle with the transition section, and I started applying the habits of healthy eating for life. And guess what? It worked. And after a year, I still didn't believe it. After 2 years, I was starting to trust it. After 3 years, I thought, oh, here we go. I actually found the answer. It literally took me that long. Then I got an injury and flat out gained 10 pounds in 6, 7, 9 months and decided I would finally do 5-in-1. So it wasn't until 3.5 in that I actually was using the fuelings and did the actual 5-in-1 program. So I completely did everything backwards. And once I did that, then I was totally sold on the fuelings and how powerful it is. I already knew 2 to 3 hours worked and all that, but I'm now sold on the fuelings, and I can't give them up because they're so stinking easy and yummy, and I get to have my cake and eat it too. So the wedding dress was a complete bonus cherry on the top because I had no idea that I even fathomed getting back into that wedding dress ever again in my entire life. And not only can I get into it, but I've stayed in that size and I cannot believe it. So it just blows my mind, blows my mind. And my husband blows my mind because he is responsible for his intake, his plan, he knows what he's doing, and he understands, and he's learned as well. And that is awesome too, because, wives out there, you wives can't tell husbands what to do, and you certainly can't doctor yourself, and you can't doctor a husband. So I include him because I'm so ultimately proud of him. And he started EAAs long before I did and started working out. And guess what? That works too. He looks way better than me. He's so buff, it's crazy. And he's 54. And then the other picture I'll be done now is my after the after picture. And it is my joy and amazing honor to be in those same jeans 2 and 3 years in a row. Every time I went up to that Iowa State game. So that's my after the after picture that I actually got to stay at after the after and didn't go back to before. So I love that photo for that reason, when you can still fit into your skinny jeans, quote unquote. So I think this is back on the top of my game personally and professionally, and on purpose serving other people in the way that I always wanted to. And I've helped more people now than I have but Margo will say this, I probably help more people now than in the last in 15 or 18 years of practice with my hands-on people. I've made more impact and I feel more whole. I've come home to myself, and I love providing hope for wholeness to people and hope that there's help and that there's healing and happiness out there. So that's what I love doing now, and I'm so glad I'm in the right place on purpose with who knows what's going to happen in the future, but I'm excited for it. Wow. So thanks for listening.
Wow. Dr. Amy Michelle, that is awesome. Thank you for sharing, and it's been fun to get to know you the last few years of working together in this wonderful community. As you mentioned, I didn't realize you guys had worked together up in Prior Lake, Minnesota, so that was very cool. Margo, go ahead and come off of mute, and I'll let you share for a little bit here. And yeah, coming at us from Prior Lake, and she's been working with Dr. Amy Michelle. Tell us your story and what sharing the gift of health and being a health champion has meant for you.
It's amazing when I look at these pictures and think back to working with Dr. Amy. I was working in healthcare, and this is what I looked like. And I remember not long ago talking to Dr. Amy and a couple other people I used to work with, and I went, how did you not tell me? How did you not take me aside and say, you're in trouble, you need help? But one of the interesting things they said to me is the way they knew me, and when they looked at me, they saw my inside, not my outside. And it just never dawned on them. They didn't even realize, because we were together all the time. But my journey started, if you can believe it, a little over 20 years ago. And you kind of got to use your imagination and consider that 20 years ago plus, I was much younger and go to the doctor and get a great annual physical and no medications, nothing, and life couldn't have been better. Then a couple of years went by, and that changed. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Now, in the process, even though I'd gotten a good bill of health earlier, I knew I needed to lose weight and I knew I had bad habits, but I felt good. And they didn't tell me anything was wrong. So why change what I was doing? Just keep on doing it wrong. Well, unfortunately, the diabetes, they told me that if my daughter had not gotten me to the hospital when she did, an hour later, I would have been dead. Yes, I need to repeat that. I would have been dead. Have you ever thought about that or faced that or had someone tell you that and taken it as a reality? Well, it was a reality. I couldn't believe this had happened to me. I mean, like I said, I knew I was overweight and had lousy habits, but how could it get so bad so fast? So naturally, I looked for every magic diet that would solve everything. I tried several. I lost weight and then I gained it back. And then a few years went by with no success, leaving me to believe that I just had to learn to live my life as it was. Not a good idea, but that's what I did. Till another health scare by the way of a heart attack and a triple bypass that left me with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, triglycerides, all of that. Plus, I was told I was facing the possibility of kidney failure because of my diabetes. And then on top of it, with all of that going on, I was on 11 different medications multiple times a day. It was like my life was spiraling out of control. I was 65 years old, 5'2", and weighed 260 pounds at 5'2". You could roll me down the sidewalk. Well, there was really no imagining because at this point, this was all very real. I was living with the results of every failed diet, pill, and potion that I tried. I had actually just gotten into the world of, I give up. That was me. I couldn't see what else I could possibly do. And then through a wonderful twist of fate, I found Dr. Anderson's books and his world of Habits of Health and Optavia. And I thought, okay, this is a message. I must need to try this. And I did. So now the imagination is gone. I'm into reality because 12 months later, I lost 110 pounds and totally transformed my life. So much so that in the process, I went from those 11 medications multiple times a day to 2 pills a day. Not only that, one of those was my heart medication that was cut in half. And one of the ones that I lost was my diabetic medication. Now, anybody that knows anything about diabetes knows that your average number should be like 80 to 120. And when you get up to 250 and 300, they get nervous. When you get up to 400, they're putting you in the hospital and you're going into a coma. Well, when my daughter got me to the hospital, my blood sugar was 1,018. I was the highest ever recorded at Abbott Northwestern Hospital. I'm not sure that that's something that I want to be famous for, but it's still the highest on record. And thanks to God, I did not go into a coma. I was in intensive care, but I came out of it and then connected with the world of Dr. Anderson, as I consider it. and everything changed. It was like, how could I not know about this? How could I not be experiencing this much sooner? And in the process, I was learning so much more about me and my life and my health, that this Habits to Health and Optavia wasn't a diet. It was about the whole of me, not just weight loss. The reality of getting and maintaining my health was about total life transformation. And I was living it and I was doing it. And the difference it made, so much so that as years went by, I just kept practicing it. I couldn't imagine not. I couldn't imagine changing once I got started with it. And then, quite ironically, several years ago, I guess maybe about 4 years ago, I was in a phone call with Dr. Amy, and she said, I'm calling you because I want to know what you're doing. I said, what do you mean, what am I doing? I'm retired. I'm sitting on the couch and watching TV and eating bonbons. What do you think I'm doing? I said, I'm working. She, what do you mean you're working? I said, well, I'm doing some part-time work for some doctors. And she said, would you like to do some part-time work with me? I said, well, what are we talking about? And she started telling me about this life transformation she'd been through. She never mentioned the company. She just talked about the changes in her life. I went, perfect for you. That's exactly where you should be. And she said, but I need some help. She said, I've got a lot of people coming on and I kind of need some help with coaching. And I said, so tell me more about this. And she said, well, it's called Habits of Health Optavia. And I started to laugh. And she said, why are you laughing? And I said, Amy, I did this several years ago. After you sold the practice and deserted me, I went on my way to a new life and I lost 110 pounds. And I said, so I am very familiar with Habits of Health and Optavia. And the next thing I knew, there we were, championing living a better life and living the best life that you could. Now, in my last physical, I got an A+ from my doctors. And they told me, don't stop what you're doing, keep doing it. And my cardiologist even said, okay, 14 years I've been treating you. 14 years, you're one of my few patients who keeps getting better. He said, I'm listening to what you're telling me. He said, can you send me some information? I went, in a heartbeat, you're going to get it. So, I mean, with all of this going on, how could I not become a health champion? How could I not become a coach? Because what I experienced and am still experiencing, I just want to do everything I can for anyone and everyone that will listen. And I mean everyone. Because the amazing thing I learned is this program is for everyone. Young, old, heavy, thin, active, inactive, sick, thinking they're well, whatever. But basically, anyone who wants to live their best life. All you need to do is be willing to put in the work, join a community of like-minded people, accept the benefits of good nutrition, let the committed coaches guide you, and most important, be open to the lessons learned in Dr. Anderson's workbooks that are designed to change your life forever, just like they have mine.
Wowzers.
That's my story, gang. I'm sticking to it.
All righty then. My goodness, that is awesome.